Happy New Year, Cherries fans, and welcome to the first opposition preview of 2021. After being stung by the bees at the end of a frustrating year, but one that shows a lot of promise going into this new year, we travel to Stoke. It will be cold, it'll probably be rainy, and at 7:45, live on Sky, it'll also be at night. So can we do it? To discuss the Potters, I have with me today Football Illustrator Topher Knowles. Afternoon, Topher. How are you doing?
Hi, Greg. I'm good, thanks. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well, Topher. Did you have a good one?
Yeah. Probably the same as everyone. Really didn't really do anything and just welcomed it in very quietly.
Fair play. So, do tell us a little bit more about your artwork. You've released a calendar for Stoke fans recently. Do tell us a little bit more about those. I can see a couple behind you as well.
Yeah. So it kind of it started a couple of years ago. Just literally drawing stick figure cartoons. It was kind of when Stoke were really in the doldrums and everything was a bit depressing. So I just started putting out these cartoons that were kind of gallows humor about the plight of the team and everything that was going wrong. And it just kind of seemed to resonate with fans at the time. Like, you know, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So people started following what I was doing, wanting to see more of it. And yeah, as I got more and more confident with it, I started doing things that I guess you could actually call artwork. I'm always a bit kind of, is this artwork? I'm just drawing football players. But yeah, people seem to be picking them up. And so last year, I did a calendar that was based on a team photo illustration that I did. It was a all-time Stoke team photo where each week I would ask Stoke fans that follow me to vote on which of our legends should go in. And that slowly built up over the season. It was just week on week, something nice for people to follow. And I turned that into a calendar. So when October, November rolled around this year, people were asking me if I was going to do another one. So I thought, why not? So that's probably keep it up. But yeah, what I try and aim for is artwork, like it's football artwork, but something that you wouldn't mind putting up in your house. It's trying to find that sweet spot that, you know, your other half might not like football, but the print is classy enough that they'll go, okay, yeah, you can have that up. So that's where I try and aim for.
Oh, fantastic. So with regards to the game, Stoke sit in 7th. They're just below us, just outside the playoff places and 3 points below us. What did you expect this season?
I think most Stoke fans, if you'd said, well, we're just shy of halfway through the season, if you told us we'd be in 7th, we would have bitten your hand off for it, because the season we had before, you know, we were bottom at Christmas. We had no idea whether, like, we really thought that this could all go wrong and we could go down to League One, do a Sunderland, all of that. So at the start of this season, people were kind of predicting sort of mid-table would be great. Let's just stabilise. Let's just hope that we don't have another terrible season. We had a bit of confidence because Michael O'Neill started turning it around at the end of last season, but there was still a lot of unknowns. So most people were predicting that, you know, playoffs will be great, but so long as we have a better season than last year, everyone will be happy. But then as you go through the season, you know, once you knock up a few wins, people start getting a bit more ambitious, and you start to think, maybe playoffs isn't good enough. Maybe we should get promoted this year. So I think same as with every fan base, expectations go up and down during the season, and we've had a very up and down year so far. So we're trying to, I think, yeah, most people are happy with 7th, but we've got that little kind of feeling now where we're thinking, no, we can probably push on a little bit more than that.
And you do mention about the last season and the season before as well. In both, to be fair, I expected you to be really strong. In the first season down, I expected you to bounce straight back. The bookies did as well. A lot of others did. What actually happened? What was What went wrong?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where people that don't follow Stoke and are just looking at it from the outside, they see a club that's been in the Premier League for 10 years and they think, well, they must have the infrastructure there to bounce back. But what people don't realise is how much of a mess our squad was in. It had become really bloated. We had all these players that were kind of, they didn't want to be in the Championship. They were not up for the fight. And I'm with the change of manager as well. You've had it yourselves with Eddie Howe going out. I'm sure you're going through that transition period where a new manager wants to bring in his own players, but you've still got all the old ones hanging around. So yeah, I mean, a lot of Stoke fans, we all thought we would bounce back as well. We had, the likes of Jack Butland and all these big name players that you still think of as Premier League players that would be able to do the job for you, but it just all went wrong. We made a couple of bad appointments. Gary Rowett looked like he was kind of stabilizing things, but people didn't really warm to him. It just didn't work out and we got rid of him. And then we brought in Nathan Jones, who we thought was that great young appointment who, he had this big project idea in mind that he knew exactly what type of football he wanted to play. He knew exactly what his philosophy was. He has more enthusiasm than I've ever seen in a human being. But it just didn't work out. It just wasn't a good fit. It was probably too soon for him, to be honest. What he was trying to do, the club was not ready for it. What we needed someone to come in and do was be that no-nonsense person who was going to sort out the mess, make sure we were solid, and then start trying to put a philosophy in and playing the nice football. And that's kind of, thankfully, what we're finally seeing with Michael O'Neill now. We're getting to that point where we've gone past the point where we were a former Premier League team, and now we've gone full circle back to, okay, we know how to be a Championship team again, and we know what we need to do to get out of this division. And you can see him putting those building blocks in place. I think it's kind of, you either bounce back first season or it takes a while. That seems to be the general pattern with both clubs. I'm sure that's probably what Bournemouth are seeing at the moment. You probably still see yourselves as a Premier League club. I know when we face you, you're one of those clubs along with Watford where I look at the lineup and I'm just looking for the big names that I still know. And it seems like you've still got quite a number of them there, but I don't know for you guys whether that squad harmony still needs fixing or what. It's a big job sometimes.
It seems to be quite good. To be honest, Jason Tindall's got all the players back on side. Some players that, maybe fell out of favour under Eddie Howe have come back into the squad and are doing very, very well. Asmir Begovic, who's been absolutely on fire, and of course, former Stoke player as well, has really been a solid goalkeeper this year, probably the best in the Championship at the moment.
Begovic was phenomenal for us. We were all kind of gutted when he left, but also, Chelsea came calling, so we couldn't really blame him. But, really, with hindsight, I think he maybe would have thought, maybe I should have stayed put, because his career kind of just did nothing for a bit whilst he was at Chelsea. So it's great to see that because he was out of contention for a while at Bournemouth, wasn't he? Didn't he kind of slip off the radar for a while?
Yeah, he actually went to AC Milan. He also went to a team, Karabag, I think it was. So he had quite a few loan spells abroad. And we didn't expect to see him in a Bournemouth shirt again, which, would have been a real shame. Ramsdale taking the number one spot off him. Ramsdale, of course, left to go to Sheffield United. Bit of a bad move on his part, looking back. But do tell us a little bit more about this Stoke team that Michael O'Neill's built.
Yeah, it's very much a case of a manager trying to build a team in his identity, but with limited resources. Compared to when we first went down, we spent very little in the transfer window this year. Just bringing in free transfers, the likes of John Obi Mikel, who is still a marquee signing, but he's very much at the the tail end of his career. And similar with Stephen Fletcher, he came in for a low price as well, maybe even free, I can't remember. And it's these kind of solid, dependable signings that we've got. To be honest, I thought Fletcher was sort of a spent force. I didn't really, when he came in, I don't think anyone was particularly that excited, but he has been a revelation, just that kind of dependable, still Premier League quality striker, I'd say. That's debatable, but he's brought in that kind of work rate and that savvy that we've got. And what we've got alongside that is this nucleus of young players that Michael O'Neill has been willing to give a chance. So when we were in the Premier League, we spent tons of money building this incredible academy and never really brought anyone through from it. And I don't know whether our hand has been forced now or it's genuinely what O'Neill wants to do. But we're seeing, I mean, we've got several players who are, early 20s or younger, who are really, really the spine of our team now. We've got these two young centre-backs in Harry Souttar and Nathan Collins, who we're trying not to shout about too much, to be honest, because we really want to keep them for a while. Those guys. And then we had, sad times now, but we had Tyrese Campbell, who, is 21, birthday last week. And he's been banging in goals with the precision of a striker who he seems a lot older and wiser than he is. And I don't think until he got injured, I don't think we realised just how important he was to us. He's another player who will be very lucky to keep, I think, if we don't get promoted in the next year or so. But the main thing at the moment is that we've got players who are willing to put in those shifts to do that hard work and actually seem to want to play for the shirt, instead of players who are kind of putting themselves in the shop window and maybe want to get back to the Premier League. We've got players who want to be at Stoke. They've come through the ranks. They have Stoke in their blood, and we're seeing it finally come together now. There's still a lot of work to do. I don't think anyone's getting too carried away just yet. We definitely have some problem areas, but it's after a few years of watching a team that we were not very proud of, finally we're excited to watch Stoke again, and we do believe in them again. Just want to get back in those stadiums so we can tell them that.
And Michael O'Neill really has put you back in contention since he left the Northern Ireland job for the Brit, as everybody knows it. So how has he changed things tactically as well?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mixed bag, really. I've heard people call him a match situation manager, in that he will very much adapt to what's going on in any particular game. He does have his preferred formations, but his main thing is making us solid at the back, because we had a big period where we were conceding 3 or 4 every time, and it seemed like Butland was determined to throw a couple in the net himself every game as well for a while, which didn't do us any favours. So what the main thing O'Neill has done is made us dependable at the back. We've had, I can't remember the stats, but we've had something like the most clean sheets, certainly in the Championship and probably in several of the other leagues, which is that base that we need to build from. So we've had quite a lot of games where the football hasn't been that exciting because we're kind of holding on to what we have. But prior to that, we got last season, the tail end of last season, where we were still kind of fighting against relegation, but things were looking a bit safer. And you could tell that O'Neill was experimenting and the goals started flowing and we were starting to see some free-flowing football. So we know he's got that in his locker as well. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're just in the middle of a horrible injury crisis where we're down to essentially our under-23s keeper has come in because of, so we brought in, first keeper was injured, second keeper was injured. We brought in a couple of experienced keepers on loan to cover them. They both got injured or sick. And so we ended up with 5th choice goalkeeper in goal. And when we played Spurs in the Cup, we were down to the 6th choice as well. But this young kid has come in and been phenomenal. He looked maybe a little bit nervous at first, but now he's commanding his area. He made a really big stop in the last game. And it's that kind of defensive solidity that we need to build on going forwards.
And you did allude to the strength that we've got and the injury crisis that you've got there at Stoke. How do you think he's going to set out to stop us?
I would imagine that, like we have done in a lot of games, we'll probably try to not do that much in the first half. We'll just try and make sure we're still in the game, keep it level. And then we tend to have this period at the start of the second half where we will go for it. And that kind of makes or breaks what our game is about. We'll either nab a goal in that time and sit back on it, or it will go wrong. I know that I think the Bournemouth are among the top scorers in the Championship at the moment. The
best difference at the moment. I think we're plus 18 on the goal difference.
Yeah. So I imagine O'Neill will be looking at that and thinking, let's stop that first, and then we'll see what we can do. Because I know the likes of Solanke and Stanislas, they're the kind of, they're the names that from the Premier League days that will be setting off those red lights to think, okay, let's not be too ambitious here. And we probably will. It seems like we try and play for a 1-0 draw at the moment, to be honest. I think that in terms of it's more going to be a case of, can your attacking talents get through this defence that has been so good? That core of young defenders with the experience of James Chester, who has really come good recently. It's going to be a case of, can we shut you out or not, basically.
And of course, final real question before we go on to the prediction. Of course, there is this thing with Stoke, the cold. Can they do it on a cold, rainy night in Stoke? How many teams have actually been able to do it this year? Because, of course, fixture congestion has been a big thing. There's been a lot of teams that I'm guessing have tried.
Yeah, I mean, well, most people haven't been able to score against us. So the reputation is holding up at the moment. I think we're getting a couple of players who are getting that kind of niggly style of play that we were renowned for. That, as much as the weather conditions, that's what people talk about. Really, it was people didn't want to come because they knew we were going to kick you. And I think that some Stoke fans actually started to have a little bit of a mini vendetta against Bournemouth, which I don't think went both ways. But in Bournemouth, we saw a team that kind of did the dark arts quite well towards the end of the Premier League years. I think we were a little bit jealous of it, to be honest. We saw you doing the things that we always love seeing our players do. But yeah, I don't think that the cold, wet reputation is quite back yet, but it's coming. So it'll be a factor.
It's one of those cornerstones of football, isn't it? With Stoke, can they actually do it? And it was throughout the Premier League years as well. I remember seeing all these memes going up, asking, and a lot of players failed. During the Premier League years. I've got to ask you, Topher, like I do every guest, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's your prediction for tomorrow night's game?
I can say with confidence that I think it will be low scoring, which probably means go and lump on loads of goals being scored, because I'm not usually very good at these things. I think it's going to be a case of, can you get through us and can we score? Because we've been fairly toothless going forwards in the past few games. So Hart says 1-0 win to Stoke, which will nick it, and you won't be able to get through us. But Head says probably a 1-1 draw, I think. So I think I'll lump for that 1-1.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Topher. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and all the very best for all the artwork and for everything in the future.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining me again today, Cherries fans, on this Back of the Net special. After the game against Stoke, we will have our famous free-for-alls. Sam will be back to do those, so please do join us for that. Also, Tom Jordan will be back with his player ratings as well straight after the game. So until the next video, very happy new year, and we'll see you in the next one. Up the Cherries.